starting off, we'll start with what age did you start playing football?
For me, it was as soon as I could kick a ball.
Yeah.
To be fair, literally, as soon as I remember walking and things, I was bang kicking a ball about. It was. I can remember in my old house, just as a little kid, I couldn't even tell you what age I was.
Yeah.
Just kicking a around and things like that. So
Yeah.
mum was always screaming. Mum was always screaming at me right from the start about smashing things. So yeah, it was always I was always kicking a ball around. So from young.
Yeah. That's awesome. So next we got who got you into football?
I'd say my family really. My mum and dad are big West Ham fans, and obviously their families as well, and it goes back. So I think it's always been in our family. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, where I could just kick a like whenever I was walking, I was just kicking a ball.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it just stems from there, and it helps that your family's into football, and then I take it, I say seriously, but you then start getting into teams, and you actually go training and stuff. If I didn't have my parents, to take
Yeah.
me and stuff, then probably wouldn't have got into it as much.
Yeah. That's cool. That's really cool. Um, so how did Luton come across you? Like, was it sort of like a scouting kind of situation, or?
Yeah, so we was at Millwall before this, and I weren't offered my scholarship there. Now I
Yeah.
was training a couple other clubs and things, and then I think it was Steve Salis actually. So a guy that was head of education over at Millwall.
Yeah.
He knew over at Luton, and I remember him doing me a favour, making the call, and then they was like, yeah, we'll have him down definitely.
Yeah.
Go down really well, and I won't ever forget this because I'd have been in there for a couple of weeks on trial, and there's these things called exit trials as well, where
Yeah.
you can go if you haven't got a club and you've been released or whatever. You can go to these trials, and it's hundreds of kids, but there's loads of scouts there, from loads of different clubs
Yeah.
looking to see whether they want to sign anyone or take anyone on trial and things. And I remember we had that lined up. But then obviously I was on trial at Luton, been there for a couple of weeks, and
Yeah.
they actually turned around, listen, like, we like you, but we obviously don't want to ruin you and things like that. And so we will let you go to these exit trials, but, bear that
Yeah.
in mind, we are letting you go, come back and things like that. So I won't ever forget that. I respect them for that, because if it didn't work out there, then they would have allowed me to go on and got exposure as such to the other exit trials. But yeah, that's mainly how it happened. Steve Salis, I won't him either, making the call for me, and I respect that.
Oh, that's awesome. Because have you always played in midfield, or you sort of played in other positions before, or?
Well, yeah, I've done, I say near enough all of them, all but some. So I started out Sunday League as a striker. I think, to be fair, I think every kid goes through a phase of playing striker.
Yeah.
Um, I was there getting the goals and things that I absolutely love it. I then got picked up by West Ham.
Yeah.
I signed West Ham as a striker. That was at under 10s. And then slowly they put me into a right back position, which to be honest, I didn't really want to play.
Yeah.
And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to leave, just because I just weren't enjoying my football. And I'm not saying that's down to the position, not at all, but just
Yeah.
everything that was going on, that was obviously one factor
Yeah.
of it. So I had a little stint at right back. As I left West Ham, I knew I didn't really want to play there. And I actually went on trial at Millwall, and like I said, family and myself are big West Ham fans, so that was
Yeah.
quite weird in its. But yeah, we go on trial, and I didn't actually know what position I was trialing for.
Oh, okay.
I so yeah, I was sat down my first game on trial for Millwall. I think in the under 12s, there was two coaches, Harry Watlin and Dean Palmer.
Yep.
And I was sat there. Harry Watlin was almost like the main guy, was talking about the teams and things. And he goes, right, Case, what position are you? What's your main position? I
Yep.
sat there, I went, I had no idea what to say. And it weren't until other coach from seeing me in training stuff, the other coach, Dean Palmer, turned around and went, he's a central midfielder, holding midfielder, central midfielder. Ever since then, I've been a central midfielder. So I've got to respect Dean for that as well.
Yeah, it's cool.
What a guy.
Yeah.
What a guy. He looks cool as well. And yeah, funny story. I had no idea what position. Bang, he's told me what position I am. I didn't even know. And I was like, yeah, go on then. I'll have a bit of midfield then. Let's have a go. And then ever since then, I've kept to it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. That's a really cool story. So if you weren't a footballer, what do you reckon you would be doing? Or what were you sort of planning to do if this didn't sort of obviously work out how it has?
Yeah. I always said as a youngster, because I've always been taught and brought up to have that backup plan, have that plan B, and or even have that thing to run alongside football, you know, because football, number one, lasts forever, and number two, it can stop at any time. You might get injured, you might fall out of love with the game.
Yeah.
Anything can happen, right? So God forbid it doesn't. But listen, that's the nature of the game. So I've always been brought up to have that in the back of your mind, and my response was always, I'll get into what my dad does in the in the city, sit in an office all day and things. To be fair, I'll back myself. I think I'll be quite good at what he does. Telling people what, I don't mind it, but yeah, when I'm thinking about it as I'm getting older, would I be okay with sitting in an office all day? Probably not. You know, I'm one of them active. I want to get about. You know, so I set up a coaching business in my first year as a scholar. As we went into COVID, I set up a business of coaching, and 3-4 years down the line, and we're here, and I've just done 2 football in the holidays, and the business is really kicking on and flying now. So
awesome.
really proud moment for myself with all that. So that's good. So I think obviously if football wasn't a thing, I don't know, I'd like to say another sport like golf, but I'm so inconsistent with that. I don't think I can get away with saying it. But I would like to stay around football, you know, whether that is a coach, whether that is an analyst, or you know, getting out maybe in the agency world and getting involved there and getting stuck in. I think I would always like to stay in and around the game. Punditry. That being said, I don't think I've ever said it before, but the thought of being an actor has actually like sprung up on my mind recently, but I don't know. I don't know whether I could get away. I'm not sure. I get grilled about my smile sometimes, so we'll see about that one. We'll see.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Be interesting to see sort of what pops up when you eventually decide to hang up the boots, or however it ends, and whether you go into coaching or whatnot. It'll be definitely interesting to see what happens. So was Nathan quite key to your development while you were with Luton, or sort of like previous coaches before him, or anything like that?
Yeah, so obviously Nathan the Gaffer, he was my first real taste of first team when I made the jump, and when I was training with him, you know. I was at the academy when Graham Jones was there, so I didn't really see too much of him. And then I went in, and when he came back and stuff, I then got involved with the first team. The last 2 years has been massive for me and my development. And to be honest, he wouldn't say too much to people like myself, almost as youngsters. I know I never managed to get on, and nor did any other youngsters when he was there really too much anyway. But just his presence and the way he went about his work
Yeah,
him and his coaching staff and how he is as a person. Listen, everyone sees what he's like on the sideline.
yeah,
Everyone sees what he's like, and he's the exact same in training. And you know what? It was the best thing for me.
yeah,
The absolute best for me, because now for me, I went through a phase in the last few months of going into other clubs, trying to get another contract sorted with other teams and things like that.
yeah,
And him and his coaching staff had everything down to a T. The small details, the intensity and the quality in things like shape work that we
yeah,
would do in my Friday day before a game, and there's 11 mannequins on the pitch, and we're in, let's say, 2 people on a mannequin each,
yeah.
and little things like the ball touch and then pass into another man to avoid the mannequins and things. At first, it's nerve-wracking, you know. It's like, because
Yeah.
he's the loudest voice, and he's actually sprinting to a mannequin to show everyone what to do. Like,
Oh
he
wow.
cared about it so. Like, his passion for the game is unbelievable.
Yeah,
I respect that so much from him, because things like that has never left my mind. And
yeah,
now, whenever I do shape work or little practice that people could take it a little bit easier, I'm never like that. I'm now, bang, I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it. No matter what,
yeah,
I'm always the one who's loudest. I'm always the one to take my touch properly and then punch my pass in like it's in a game. Taking care with everything you do. I think there's no coincidence why Luton are now in the Premier League and in the position they are, and there's no coincidence why he got his job, albeit it didn't work out for him at Southampton, but there's no
yeah,
coincidence why he's now he got his move, you know. So he
yeah.
had a massive influence on me.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. What was the most valuable piece of information you've had from like a, I don't know, like a coach or a player or anything like that?
It's a good question. I think for me, I talk all the time, and I'm one of them people who likes to ask a lot of questions and
Yeah,
uh, just try and drain as many answers out of a coach as possible.
yeah,
I think Chris Owen and she's they were really good in terms of giving information. I don't think I could really pick out one. I know one would be, Case, you're coming up with us, right?
yeah,
And you might be training with, play the exact same way, train the exact same way, be the loudest, be everything, right?
yeah,
And I think that, and ultimately, even though you are coming up, be the best player,
yeah,
be the best player and train, show out, you know. Don't be nervous. Come in and actually showcase, have a bit about you, you know.
yeah,
Um, I've taken that on board, you know, all of them little things. I don't think I could really say one thing in specific, because all of it I've just taken in, and every single little bit of detail I take like the most serious, you know, just
yeah,
to take on game. So, but I think it's just that, having that ability to step up with the elders and showcase what you can do. But ultimately, although it didn't happen for me over there, really battle to get a place, you know,
yeah,
compete, be the best in training, like they say, be consistent. Um, like I said, I can't pinpoint one, but they were just brilliant, down to a T, with their little details, with everything they'd done.
yeah.
They were brilliant.
Oh, that's awesome. But just going back to training and stuff, how did you feel training changed sort of as you went through like the age groups, like from when you started as a young fella up until now, kind of thing? Like, did you quite notice the, I suppose, like the intensity changing or anything like that?
Yeah. As you get older, obviously, it's natural. It gets quicker. You know,
Yeah,
players get bigger. Players develop at different rates when you're younger. But then you slowly start to get in the business end of things, where people are now going to be either fully built or coming close to being fully built, and things like that. And
yeah,
the game is a lot more aggressive, more physical, and just quick in general. I think going from 16 to 23s is a gradual increase, you know. 23s to first team is a bigger jump, a much bigger jump. And I found, I had my first training session over there. I can't remember when, November time, probably a couple seasons ago, or one of my first. Anyway, I had one a couple years before that, but weren't too serious. And I remember it was one of my worst sessions ever. Everything I told myself to do, I basically didn't do. I was like, because I thought about it too much, probably.
Yeah. Almost
when
to
I went
psych
in,
yourself out of it, kind of thing.
I was almost overthinking every pass. Passing's one of my biggest strengths, you know. And I'd kick the pitch, and I'd be like, Jesus, Case, you know, like liven up. And it never worked for me. A couple of weeks later, a week or so later, it felt that people were on loan or people were out playing or something, and then you had the youngers had an FA Youth Cup game, and they needed a player or two players, and I was the player to go over. So I got my second chance, and I went back over there with them, and I showcased exactly what I could do. I didn't overthink it, and I done really well, and I actually stayed with them for every single day after that.
Oh wow!
Until basically near anyway. And so for me, when we're talking about big jumps and things, you do see it with the 23s to first team. I don't feel it too much straight away, because you're almost so psyched up. You treat every single training session like a game and stuff. But when you do feel it, it go back down. So the odd training session when you're either not in the squad or whatever may have happened, and you're now back with the 23s just for a session or two, and you train with them, you can really see the change of intensity, the noise level, it all drops almost. And I think that was one of their biggest things, that to try to improve, bridge the gap, you know, make it a little bit closer, 23s and first team, which I think they will do over time, and I've got no doubts in the football club for that. But I think that's when you really see the difference in the jump, when you go back down and you think you're used to these players making the movement, you're used to them being there, you're used to them playing off of one touch, two touch. All of a sudden now it's a little bit slower in the 23s. Not by much, but enough for you to realise, oh, okay, that's the difference, you know?
Yeah. So as far as it goes for like on game day and stuff, is there sort of like a certain ritual you do, or sort of anything building up to it, or even when you're in the locker room just about to go out onto the pitch? Like I know some players, maybe they have a certain drink they have beforehand or at half time or anything like that. Like, is there anything that you do yourself?
Yeah, you know what? We could be here all day with these, because and it got quite bad recently, where I've had to try and talk myself to stop one of them, or a couple of them, just because I'm like, okay, you know, let's just change it up a little bit, because it's getting too much and stuff. But yeah, I'd always look to put any item of clothing or boots or anything right first, then left. Then I would go. I don't. Obviously, it's not too much of a ritual, but you know, you'd eat between, I'd say, 2.5 hours before the game. Near enough dead on that. Probably the strangest one would be, I would, the day before or the day of the game, I would clean shave, and from January onwards, I've obviously kept the beard going a little bit. So I thought, how am I going to work around this? So then I thought, right, day before the game or day of the game, I'm going to trim the beard or shape it up or do something to it. So that was always a thing, and I'm trying. That's the one I'm trying to get rid of now. I'm trying to slow down with that and stop that. But whether it happens, I don't know. Yeah, I'd have caffeine shots just before I go out. I used to have it when I was out on the pitch. I'd do 5 tuck jumps. I'd move to the right, move to the left, move forward, move back, and then I'll be ready for the game. I managed to stop that one. I I played poorly 1 or 2 games in a row, and then I was like, let me change it up a little bit. So then I stopped it. But yeah, I'm trying to get on top of these superstitions, if you want to call them.
Fair enough. So how long do you reckon, sort of like per day or so, do you reckon you train? Like, I suppose, yeah, probably more so when you're not actually at training, just sort of like in your own time. Do you sort of like go to the gym or anything like that, or?
Yeah. So obviously a normal week when we was at Luton would look, depending on whether we've got a game or not, would depend on how that day would go.
Yeah,
If we've got a day game, then it'll be a light session of football, and then get home and then just relax almost. Stretch, foam roll, anything you need to do. But if it's a more intense day, or maybe it's a Thursday leading into a Saturday game, yeah, we'll be doing gym. 9 times out of 10, I'll do gym at football,
yeah,
and then depending on that went and how I'm feeling. If I had a Tuesday game, then Saturday I probably will leave it at that one gym session, but I might go back, do another little gym session, just to keep myself going, and obviously for me, I was traveling a lot, being on a bench a lot, so I was almost in and around it and treating it like I was going to play, because I say you've got to be, but then also having the back of your mind, right, okay, I'm not actually doing anything, so I need to keep topping up and things. So you're
yeah,
constantly thinking, you're constantly looking to get sessions in, or I am anyway.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, like again, it depends on how the week is, depends on how you're feeling as well. You don't want to absolutely rattle yourself, and then next thing you know, you got a game the next day and stuff. So you got to think in that sense. But no, I try to get to the gym and work as much as I can.
yeah. Oh, that's fair enough. Who do you find, I suppose, at Luton, who was probably the funniest player? Did you find was probably sort of during your trainings or sort of during the game, anything like that?
Yeah, what you I absolutely loved Harry Cornick when he was here. Like
Yeah.
straight away when I came up, I mean, he would throw me under the bus like a little bit. Like I'd try to joke with him, and I'd try to speak to him about something. And I thought it would just stay between me and him. Next thing you know, we're running up and down doing the warm up, and he's just told everyone, and then everyone's asking questions, looking at him like, geez, what are you doing? You're throwing me under the bus here.
Yeah.
But no, you do like. I probably couldn't say it on here, but he was just hilarious. Like I think that they were a great group of lads. Him, Pelly's obviously like everyone knows he's the character in the changing room.
Yeah.
He's massive for them. Like there's again no coincidence why they've gone up and up and up again, and a lot of that is to do with him.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
a great. And then you look at people like Henry Lansbury and things. Again, he's just funny with what he does, and there's loads that I could list off. But I'd
Yeah.
say that they're the main ones.
I have heard. I think I've probably come across it at some point that Henry was a bit of a character in the changing rooms a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Um,
but done it. I can't remember whose car it was. I don't know whether anyone's actually said it. I don't know whether I'm allowed to say it. I can't. But he drove someone's car to the back of the training ground. So like,
oh
there's a
wow.
way to get our pitch, right?
Yeah.
And it was someone's mum's car that they had to drive because theirs was in for a service.
Yeah.
And he's just driven it round all the way round to the back of the training ground where the pitches are. And I don't know how he's got it there. I don't know how.
Yeah.
And he's left the keys somewhere as well. And everyone's just like, whose car is that? And the geezer's obviously found it, whose it is. And I think he pretended like there was a flat tyre a lot, but we was travelling for a game at that point as well.
Yeah.
So he's, while travelling on the game, put it in the group chat. Everyone's on the coach, and the person's just go off and just lost it. But no, he would come out and do all sorts of things. He was brilliant.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. It's good to have players like that who sort of make things a bit more interesting, and like there's always a bit of
Yeah,
laughter going on.
yeah, you got to.
Definitely. So I suppose fast forwarding from now, I suppose like the next 5 years, what would be sort of, I suppose, where would you see yourself, or where would you like to be within the next 5 years or so?
I would put myself in the leagues. Obviously, just dropped out of the leagues and in the National League. I just put an alarm on to make sure I get to this. To make sure I get. So, yeah, no, I'd see myself in the leagues. Now, what league is I'm not sure. I want to say Premier League. I work hard every single day, and I dedicate my whole life to this. And I know I'll get there one day.
Yeah,
When that is, I couldn't tell you.
yeah,
And I'll let it naturally unfold. But what everyone does know and they can know is that I'm doing everything that I can to get there. That's the ambition. That's the goal.
yeah,
And so whether that's in 4 years' time, 3 years' time, 5, 6 years' time, we'll get there, however long it takes.
yeah. And I mean that's the best way to look at it, is to sort of, you can sit around and think about it too much, and I suppose stress about it too much. I mean, in that situation, it probably wouldn't end up happening because obviously you thought about it too much and probably psyched yourself out of it. But yeah, obviously just letting it happen naturally is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, 100%. Just control what you can control at the end of the day. That's what you get brought up to think all the time. I know Adrian Forbes over there, 23 gaffer at Luton.
Yep.
He was massive. Like, as a player coach relationship goes, like, we was up there one of the best. I loved him to bits, to be honest with you.
Yep.
And he could sense that sometimes I'd be a little bit frustrated with the group a little bit, just because of maybe I've been with the first team and coming down, or I'm not playing, or something. And he would always go, listen, Case, you can only control what you can control. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yep.
And that's can do. That's all you can do. When you look back and you go, right, why didn't this happen? Well, it actually weren't me. I've done everything I possibly could to get there.
Yep.
That's what I take with me all the time. That's what I take with me.
Yep. So I suppose in any sort of team that you've been in, or even just ones you've watched, who would be your sort of football, I suppose, idol, or somebody you looked up to growing up, or maybe even you got to play with them, or you play with them now, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, big West Ham fan. I look around and listen, I'll probably get slated for this just because I know him a little bit. Declan Rice, like,
Yep.
I just think he's unbelievable. Listen, he's moved to Arsenal, and yeah, it does hurt. It does hurt. Listen, I think with a footballing brain, if you've got one of them and you can watch him and see what he does on the pitch, it's just unbelievable. Obviously, I'll probably watch more West Ham games than anyone else. So,
Yeah.
any normal fan, I should say. And I'd just watch him and I'd idolise him. Watching him come up as almost a youngster through the academy and see how he's ended up. Obviously, that's the goal for everyone in an academy.
Yeah.
Him. You got Mark Noble as well. I've always loved Nobes. He's brilliant. So when it came to picking my squad number for Maidenhead, who I've just signed for, they gave me a list and there was 16 on there, and I went, "Oh, go on then." I'll do it for Mark Noble.
Yeah.
I picked that, so that's what we are at the minute. 16. But people like them I really look up to, because I look and go, right, it is possible. It is possible. And those who have a passion and for the game, and I think them two are perfect examples of some people I'd look up to.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Just going back to the comment before about talking about academies and stuff. Who do you find at Luton within like the academy? Who do you think will work in, or who do you reckon will probably go far that maybe isn't quite in the senior team yet, but you feel like has got a lot of potential?
Can I say someone who's not there at the minute?
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah.
Ed McJanet.
Okay.
Everyone seen that Ed's gone to Lycée or however you pronounce the club, and I would put him alongside myself in terms of mentality wise.
Yep.
He is the great, honestly, one of the greatest kids you'd see as a person. That is, as a player, he's unbelievable as well.
Yeah.
He's absolutely everything on the pitch. He's strong, technically unbelievable. He'll work hard.
Mm-hmm.
He'll talk. He's got near enough everything. Yeah, attitude wise, that's why I think he'll go to the top, because of how he is as a person, how he is. He works hard and he's humble with everything he does as well. He was one of the only ones to be with me when I was training with the first team every day. At one point, it was just me and him. I had it on my own for a little bit, and then when it came into COVID time, they needed another player, and it was just me and Ed. We stayed with them from then on.
Yeah.
And listen, he got his move, and it's brilliant to see him doing so well, and it's onwards and upwards for him. He's brilliant, and he play out when he's older. He will be.
Oh, that's awesome. So while you were with Luton, what would you say was probably your favourite or most memorable moment while you were there?
Is this funniest moment or like memorable, or should we split it into two? Because I've got one for funniest. I think I want to split it into two because
if you've got two, then yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah. So most memorable, I think it's got to be traveling for the first time. It's got to be being in and around the squad, and this season especially, being in and around the squad and being on the bench and having all them experiences under my belt has been unbelievable. Ones I've ticked off, obviously stadiums, not necessarily that I've played in because I didn't play, but just to do warm-ups, that you'd always be given the choice almost if you was in the squad whether you want to do the warm-up or not, and every single one I said yeah. Why would I think about Craven Cottage? So it is, yeah, it's decent. It really is good. So I'd say that. In terms of the funniest one, I would go in the 23s. We there's a changing room, right, and there's these swinging lights. Now, when I first came to the club, I didn't really know of them, and you're not allowed to kick the ball around in the change room and stuff.
Yeah.
And I can afford to say this now because I'm not at the club. But obviously, you do kick the odd ball here and there. I'm not saying we've done it loads, but you do. And it was the FA Youth Cup the next day. And I hadn't been involved in the FA Youth Cup before. A lot of the boys have when I was younger, being on the bench and stuff, but I haven't. And so for a massive thing, and I was in my first year as a scholar, so I didn't know whether I was playing. Then I knew I was. Anyway, we're kicking the ball around, and apparently the lights come down before. I've obviously never seen. I've just signed, and next thing you know, I'm playing two touch with another player. I won't throw them under the bus, but I've just done like a little looping one to get back to him, and it's just clipped it. Next thing you know, the whole thing's come down, or like the shield light has stayed, but like the shield parts come down. And that was just the start of everything. Like I was panicking. I was dishing out money that I didn't have. I was saying, "Listen, geez, I'll pay you to just fix this right now. Come on." like get on my shoulders, or I'll get on yours, and then we'll fix it. I was panicking so. Like, it was an evening training session, and so there was lights in the change room, and then you could see out. So every one that went past the change room, I was terrified of the coaches and things. So I see a shadow go past, and I'm like, I've got to ride this shield thing behind me, and I was the most nerve-wracking thing. Anyway, so that goes past. We end up fixing it. We get away with it.
Yeah.
And I think it was later on that season, or possibly the season after. I'm not sure. It happened again, and but it wasn't myself this time.
Yeah.
And it was only the little corner bit on the light, right? And it came down, and we fixed it. I think it was Josh Nerville. Now he probably won't mind me saying it either. It was Josh Nerville, and it came down. I'm now on his shoulders because he knows that I've fixed it, right? He knows that I fixed it before, so I've managed to fix it for him. Anyway, he's then telling a story, one of his classic stories, because he was very funny.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about 5 minutes later, no one's touched anything. It just comes down again, like mid-conversation, everyone's silent. Oh my God. I have never laughed so much in my entire life. Unbelievable. I was on the floor crying. And looking back at it now, it was brilliant. So that would be the funniest moment in my whole time there. It was brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's definitely funny, some of those stories where you're just moments where in the moment it was terrifying, but you look back now and
probably doesn't sound much now, like when I'm saying it, but because I've got that picture in my head, I just think it's absolutely, it's hilarious.
Yeah,
it's hilarious to have it as such a person like Josh as well. He was coming out with one of his classic stories, like he's great. Just to have it come down when he was talking, like 5 minutes after we've fixed it and stuff, like out of nowhere, it was brilliant. It just made my whole time there. So yeah, really good.
That's awesome. So sort of just a random question as well. So for a overall skill set, if you could pick for yourself, I suppose in any position, if you could be in any, I suppose what would you pick? Like, I suppose like pace wise, passing wise, dribbling, like a whole bunch of things, maybe from a whole bunch of players brought into one. Like, what would you sort of pick?
Are we just one? Are we picking here? Yeah.
I suppose actually to make it a bit more simpler, what would be the main skill you would like to work on ultimately, or be the best at if you could be?
You know what? I've always been, I would say, without getting up my own arse, right? I would say psychologically, I'm always quite quick. I feel like I talk and I feel like my passing is decent and my first touch.
Yep.
In terms of physicality, I've battled and I've worked on it. And it comes down to like pace and things like that. If I could be that little bit quicker, I think I'd be unstoppable. Let's put it that way. I'd be unstoppable. Always quicker. Nah, I'm not going to say that because that just makes me. But I'd probably say pace for myself. I've always worked on it, and some people have it, some people don't. There's that you can work on it as much as you can, and you will get a bit quicker. It's just one of them things, really. If I had that, it would really help. But then again, I don't want that taking anything away from any of my other games. So listen, I like who I am today, but if I did have the pace, it would be nice. It would be nice. And then when I get on FIFA, hopefully one day I'll get on FIFA, and then they can well. But yeah.
So I suppose away from the sort of Luton Town questions and stuff, how did the Maidenhead offer come about? Like, was there any other teams that were sort of hanging about or flicking you any offers or anything like that as well?
Yeah, so we had a couple league clubs that we was going to go into or went into. I know we had something at Colchester. They could only offer 23s football,
Yeah.
but they offered. We then wanted to speak to them in the building, and they offered money on the Saturday. Turn around to the Tuesday, they weren't replying to us.
Oh
They
well.
finally replied. Yeah, they finally replied, and they came back with, yeah, we've just signed a 19-year-old Arsenal lad on loan, so the deal's not there anymore. So things like that, people don't see football.
Yeah.
People like people don't see that in football. So I think that's what makes the few months quite stressful. You know, when you haven't got a club and when you're working as hard as you can and things like that do happen, it's frustrating. You know,
Yeah.
we went into Wickham, we done there, didn't work out. But listen, we ended up speaking to Maidenhead. They said, come down, train, we done well. And listen, we got an offer from them, you know, and
Yeah.
ultimately, the thing I need most right now as a 20-year-old turning 21 this season, I need games. I need men's football. Obviously, it's been great being at Luton, being on a bench with the first team, being in a promotion winning side and things like that. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I've gone past 23s now. Football. I've played my years in that. I now need to get men's football under my belt, and that is the next thing. And I need to go somewhere where I'm going to play. And listen, I need to break my way into the Maidenhead starting 11, get some games under my belt, and then go from there. So let's see how this season goes, and then we'll reevaluate at the end of the one. But no, listen, it's been a stressful few months, but I've got nothing but. I've got there in the end, you know, and I can't thank my agency enough, especially Integral Sports Management. I know you went for them to sort this out as well. They've just been brilliant. I'd like to say a massive shout out to them because they have every single day, you know, they'll check in on me because ultimately they care about the person instead of the player first,
Yeah.
and then the playing cup. And so that was a big help in the last few months, especially. So I'd like to thank them.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So for this upcoming season, what would be like your personal goals? Like by the end of the season, is there a certain goal or even a couple goals that you're wanting to sort of achieve or see? Yeah, I suppose something different or something improved or whatever.
Yeah, I think me like there, I need men's football. I need games. So I think the biggest one for me is probably to try if I can get 20 plus games in the National League. If I can do that, I think I can classify that as almost a good solid season for myself.
Yeah.
We'll reevaluate Christmas, see how many we've got there, and then we might change that to 30 if we're playing regularly. If not, then we might keep it as it is and still try and force my way in. But yeah, again, I think that's the main one for me. And ultimately being consistent in them games that I do play. I usually back myself when it comes to consistency and when it comes to playing and breaking my way in, I usually back myself.
Yeah.
So let's see how this goes. Obviously, we'll always be ongoing with when it comes to targets and things like that. They'll always be changing. They'll always be either bringing them up and won't necessarily bring them down, but we'll reevaluate, you know. So like I said, the main one is probably reevaluate at Christmas, see how we go from there, but let's try and get as many games as possible under our belt. That would be the main one.
Yeah. And also just with the teams that you've played in from throughout your career, what would you say is probably the best team you've played in? Probably the best player you've played with, and I suppose probably the biggest challenge you've come up against a team.
I think I'm gonna have to say the best team I play with. Obviously, you've got status wise, West Ham are obviously, but they were when I was a lot younger, 10s to 12. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say Luton this one. And obviously being in and around the first team and stuff, it's been brilliant and getting in and around the lads there.
Yeah.
I'm obviously a big West Ham fan. One when we had Robert Snodgrass come in, it was unbelievable. I think it was the season before, 2 seasons before. I'm waiting outside West Ham looking to get my shirt signed by Robert Snodgrass. Next thing you know, I rock up and I'm having breakfast next to him in the canteen. Like it's
Yeah.
things like that is great, you know, and I think, yeah, I'm gonna have to say Luton for that, just because I'm towards the business end of it now, and I'm in and around first team football, and they were the best. In terms of best players, I'd say Henry Lansbury is up there with one of the best.
Yeah.
Wouldn't he wouldn't have to try at all, and he would
Yeah.
be threading past through the whole team,
Wow.
and people would get like, yeah, honestly, and this is him towards the end of his career, by the way,
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Towards the end of his career, he didn't need to try, because he's just bang, 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 like technically just an absolute joke, and his awareness is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But like, there's players in there that are really good, you know, that you can't take away, because yes, that individually they're all really good, but as a team they're probably even better, you
Yeah.
know, and exactly why they've got to the position they're in.
Yeah.
Colton Morris, another example. He almost trains how he plays. You know, funny story. We had a training session now. I don't know whether you'll remember or not, but we're training, and they've dropped me in at centre half. They've done that a little bit. Dropped me in at centre half. Obviously, a holding midfielder, central centre back. Not too different.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was shape work. And we're going from one side to the other. They've got the ball, and Colton's up top, and I'm going against him. And I'm trying to show out as a youngster, you need to try to do as much as you can, like what Chris and Sheaves were saying, be the best player, be the loud, be the most aggressive, things like that.
Yeah.
Put a tackle in. So I'm thinking, right, coming in. I'm pulling his bib and I'm trying to be aggressive with him. He sets the ball off, he swipes back, and he goes, oh, it's fucking touching my bib and stuff like that, right? And I'm thinking, okay. He didn't like that, but
Yeah.
that's at the end of the day. Anyway, as we're running over, like he would do the little tricks that he would probably do in a game. You know, like he was clipping at my toes, clipping at my heels, like almost like swiping at me, almost to get me to fall over or something.
Yeah.
As the ball was switching the other team's back four. So little things like that, and then all of a sudden the ball comes into him a little bit later on in the passage of play, and he gets it and he's holding me off, and I'm pulling at him. Next thing you know, he goes down, he drags me down, I'm on top of him, he's now on top of me, and we're rolling around on the floor like that. Because, so I was just trying to do as much as I can just to stop him. But when you've got such a big physical presence like that, and obviously as a youngster like myself, it's invaluable to have that experience. But also, you know, it's so good for myself to be up against them and try as much as I can to prevent him from doing what he does best. And listen, he got God knows how many goals, you
Yeah.
know, and he was brilliant, and another main factor as to why they've got in the Premier League.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's a pretty special player.
Oh, 100%. Brilliant player.
Yeah. So just another one, I suppose. Some of the names you mentioned probably might come into the side, but if you could pick a five-a-side team of absolutely any players, who would you pick for your five-a-side?
I would go. You know what? Someone. Are we talking in Luton? Is that what we're talking? Or
Pretty much anywhere. Yeah, literally in world football. I suppose, yeah, guys you've played with or guys you look up to, anybody.
that's tough.
I mean, obviously, yeah, there's a shitload of options.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's loads of options. You know what? I'm gonna change it a little bit. I'm gonna go. Do I change it? We'll keep it right. Okay. I'll go in goal. So this is just my best
Yep.
five-a-side team, right? In goal, we will go for Petr Cech.
Yep.
I did enjoy watching him at Chelsea a little bit as a youngster.
Yep.
Oh, this is even tougher now. I thought that was tough. I would go for. Let's start at the top. I'm going to say you got to have Messi in there somewhere. You have to, really.
Definitely, yeah.
I think you've got to have someone to play the balls into Messi. So I'm going to go for. I know they've never played together, but I might go Toni Kroos.
Yep.
How many have I got left? I've got 2 left, right?
Yeah.
I need a half. I'm going to go for. I didn't think this question was going to be this tough, you know. Are we keeping it to players that I've watched, basically, not people that were before my time? We'll keep it to people I've watched, yeah?
Yeah, ones that you've watched, yeah.
Private. Yeah. That takes away some people, not loads, though. Wow. I'm actually really struggling with this. Really struggling. I'm gonna go someone slightly different, just because there's a little bit of the passion side that I see with him. Carlos Puyol. I'm gonna slap him in there.
Okay.
So what have I got outfield? I've got Puyol, I've got Kroos, and I've got Messi. I need one more. I'm gonna have. Let's go Xavi as well. Let's go Xavi Alonso.
Yeah.
Xavi Alonso. I'm gonna go for him as a little partnership with him and Kroos in midfield. So I'm gonna go for a little diamond looking shape. And then Petr Cech in goal. I didn't think that question was going to be that hard, but I know as soon as we end this call, I'm going to send some other people, and I'm going to be like, I should have said them. But yeah, I'm going to go for them. Why not?
Oh, it's a good squad. Definitely a good squad. I mean, it is. I mean, it is definitely one of those questions where, you'll sort of later on today or something, you'll be sitting somewhere and think, I should have said this guy, or I should have said this guy, and someone else will pop into your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
So I suppose switching into sort of business side of things, with your coaching business that you've set up, what is your ambition sort of going forward with that? Like, are you sort of, what would be your ambitions with that at the moment?
I think obviously for me it's tough, and I looked at it almost like it was a little bit limited, because of the main priority for myself is football. And it's to play. Now setting up a coaching business has been the best thing I've probably ever done as well, because it's helped me on the pitch. You know, some of the coaching stuff that I say to the kids and the teams that I do, I take that into football myself, and I say that with them. Now, the ambitions that I want to take it, obviously, we've just made a massive step in having 2 really successful camps, and we got another one coming up on the 14th to the 18th of August. Now, that was a massive step for myself, and we've had great numbers turn up to that, so it's been really, really good and successful. The next thing I'd say is trying to get things going regularly and having regular coaches working for me. That would be probably target for the next, and I'd say from now until Christmas, have something in place where it's sessions under my business, under my company, under my branch, where I've got a regular training session. Obviously, it's tough for myself where I can't necessarily get to the sessions because I'm at training or I've got a game, something like that. So that's why I say about getting other coaches in. But if we can make that bigger, you know, and have that a really big brand almost in Casey Pettit coaching. You know, that would obviously make myself proud, and that would probably be one of the ambitions that I'll go for.
Yep. Oh, that's fair enough. So you, when you've, so end of your career, you've all finished up. Um, are you sort of wanting to go into being a manager, or are you sort of wanting to just stick with your coaching business, or sort of, yeah, does managing a club sort of come into mind?
Yeah, I have thought about it. Have
Yeah.
and one of them things that I don't think I can think about it anymore, because until I finish my career, that is,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the thought of it is really good. The hours are very long, and I've seen firsthand how much they really put into it.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I've set up my coaching business, and that is where it is, and that is very good. And I'm happy with that for the moment. But never say never. I'd
Yeah.
never close off a road and an option if I didn't 100%
Yeah.
know what I wanted to do. So yeah, for me, I think that's one of them things where I think I just need to look at that nearer the time when I'm going to come to the end of my career and see what other options I've got going on. But it is definitely something I'd possibly be interested in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, at the moment, you're still fresh into your career, sort of still getting started in a sense, I guess. Especially for senior level, so it's sort of, yeah, definitely something that obviously don't need to worry about now. But I suppose, yeah, if you manage to play until you're in your 30s or so, then sort of address it then. Which I'm sure a lot of players at the moment, which personally a person that I would like to see become a manager would be James Milner. I think he has
Yeah.
one of the best skill sets to go on to become a manager. Just watching him as a player, I just think he's definitely one of my favourite players. Just watching him for his career.
100%. And he's one of them players as well where he can probably play any position as well, and that's got to help on the
Yeah,
sideline when you've touched base and you've played your part in every single position near enough. That's got to help to some degree, right?